This presentation is about the evolutionary sequence of life on Earth. You will be using page 8 and 9 of your reference table to learn about how life forms have changed over time. So, Earth is 4.6 billion years old. And when Earth was first forming, it was not a nice place. There were volcanoes, there was constantly radiation from outer space, there was no water, and there were constantly meteor impacts. So in order for the atmosphere to first form, gases were released from the volcanoes in a process called outgassing, and that made the protective atmosphere. The meteors actually carried with them some elements that made up the water that became the oceans. The first life forms developed in the ocean, but they were single-celled organisms. Think like microscopic tiny algae called cyanobacteria. These were photosynthetic organisms, so that means they made the oxygen that led to the oxygen in the atmosphere we breathe today. This is an example of a cyanobacteria. When life became more complex, about 550 million years ago, we had the first multicellular life forms. These are organisms made out of more than one cell, but they were still soft-bodied creatures. They had no bones and no shells. So you should think of these kind of jellyfish creatures. 542 million years ago, they became slightly more complex and organisms with shells evolved. This is an example of some very ancient creatures called Edicarian fauna that had shells. This is a nautiloid. So the organisms were just starting to become a little more complex, and then there was a giant mass extinction event. A meteor impact that killed almost all of the ocean creatures. This was the Cambrian extinction. After this, new types of organisms started to evolve, including the first fish and coral reefs about 450 million years ago. The first fish actually had shells on the outside of their body. They were called armored fish, also known as placoderm fish. Kind of like a turtle, a shell on the outside. The first life forms on land developed 420 million years ago. These first life forms were very primitive, like moss and lichens. In this picture, you see the green fuzzy stuff on the rocks. That's what the first plants on land would have been like. These are some fern-type plants. These are the early lichens that started on land. Life on land started to get a little more complicated or more developed in 410 million years ago. We have the first forests, and the first sharks evolve in the ocean. This is an ancient type of shark. And then there was another mass extinction event. So things were just starting to get going on land, and then a mass extinction event, the Devonian mass extinction, kills almost all of the animals in the ocean again, 360 million years ago. And after that, it led to another change in evolution. The animals in the ocean were dying off. The ocean became very acidic, and animals that were able to evolve to live on land were able to survive and pass on, survival of the fittest. So amphibians, reptiles, and seed plants on land became more dominant. It's an example of a type of fish / amphibian that was evolving to learn to live on land. And then there was another mass extinction event, actually a double mass extinction, leading to the Permian-Triassic extinction 251 million years ago. This led to the evolution of giant reptiles. They were the earliest mammals as well, but they were very small. The earliest mammals were just rodents, think of like rats, basically. And the earliest birds evolved from dinosaurs, as well as the earliest flowering plants. So life forms on land became far more complicated and more diverse. This was the age of dinosaurs. And we all know about the latest extinction event that killed the dinosaurs. 65 million years ago, the extinction event killed all of the dinosaurs, which brought in the age of mammals. Now, without any giant reptiles around, mammals became the most adapted to survive. and pass on their genes and become the diverse amount of mammals that we see on Earth today. And so basically you see that over time the life forms on Earth have changed dramatically. It's been 4.6 billion years of evolution, and usually some sort of mass extinction event is what triggers a new type of life form to evolve.